I would like to tell you about my first motorhome, and I would like to tell you what I did wrong in buying that motorhome. This was many, many years ago. I knew nothing about motorhomes except that one day I wanted to travel the country, be a free spirit, find myself, do all those things that one who's fairly young wants to do. I was driving down a back road in Sacramento, California, and there it was, parked out on the street. It said, "For sale." This was the world's smallest motorhome, 18 feet. That's small, but it had everything. Kitchen, dinette. It was, in fact, later on I discovered it was almost the exact same layout as John Steinbeck's camper when he wrote Travels with Charlie. I fell in love with that motorhome. I called the number. I had very little money. The man said, "Sure, come over and look at the motorhome." And I went over and looked at it. And this man was an automotive instructor at a local community college. I figured that if he was an automotive instructor, he probably took good care of the motorhome. That was my first mistake. Anyway, I stepped into that and bells and whistles went off. It was amazing. Everything I wanted. Small, compact, and cheap. $7,800. I didn't have $7,800. I guess I got $1,000 together. I got a bank loan, and I bought that little motorhome. It was called a casita, which means little house in Spanish. The company was already out of business by the time I bought it. It was a 1977 model, I believe. Well, I bought that little motorhome. I drove it home. I loaded it up, and I set off for adventures. Sold a business, had a little money in the bank, not very much, but a little. When I bought the motorhome, I don't know that I really checked it out very well. I mean, those stains on the ceiling that were all over the ceiling, which I noticed later, should have told me that this motorhome was a leaker, and I mean leaker in all caps. I soon found out when the first rain came, and I felt so cozy when it began to drip, drip, drip all over, that I had a problem. The other thing about this motorhome was that its engine was the world's worst engine. I would say every 2 or 3 trips it broke down. And I had no money for repairs. I don't really know how I made it. I don't know how I paid my bills because I was, as I said, I was not affluent. I was the opposite of affluent. Well, I had that motorhome for 4 or 5 years. I drove it all over the West. I loved it. But every time I went to turn the key, I sort of grimaced. And I had to wonder, will it start this time? And I would say 29 out of 30 times it would start. But when I was in the middle of nowhere, there was always this question, should I turn off the engine? And I had no cell phone. There were no cell phones. And risk being stuck in the middle of nowhere? Well, I don't know how I really survived, but I did. But the moral of my story is this, that when you buy a recreational vehicle, notice if it has stains on the ceiling. Notice if there are other little clues that something is maybe wrong. Talk to a technician, somebody who knows what to look for. I really was caught up in the joy, the thrill, the prospect of being a free spirit and traveling. So my reason for coming to you today is to tell you that if you are in the market for a motorhome, don't buy a dog. Now my dog dog of a motorhome was like a really good puppy, you know, like a good puppy, but you know, you can't housebreak it. So it's not really that good a puppy. You know, you love them, but you don't love them. You get mad at them. Well, that motorhome served me okay, and it was my starter motorhome. And you know, most people do have a starter motorhome. And I look back on it with very fond memories. But it was a dog. Yeah, it was a dog.